Alright, welcome everyone to another tutorial. So this tutorial is going to pertain to Unity, and we're going to basically show you, or I'm going to show you how to pick up an object. So real easy approach. We have the concept of what we call a raycasting, and that's done in Unity. And so just think of it as a laser sight. It just registers, it makes contact with an object it collides with. You can set its range to just, only be available for use after a certain point. Sorry, only to a certain point. So I'll show you what we're talking about here. And so real easy concept approach. Okay, so we have our game camera on the right. Okay, and if we click on the object that we pre-designated only be able to be picked up, it transports or allows you to hold it at another object's location, ergo your hand, or pseudo hand in this case. So the first thing that we need is, of course, our camera and our first person controller. We need a cube, which is going to be the white cube, and you parent that underneath your first person character, but you would also move it to the location you think you deem appropriate to be like a hand, or just to tell the player we've picked it up, visually. Okay, pretty much that. Other than that, that's all it does for that cube. Okay, it's going to be our placeholder, or it's going to be our hand. It's going to have a collider. It's going to have a mesh renderer, which eventually at the end of this you will turn it off. Okay, and cause it's our coordinates. It's where the yellow ball is going to go to during the process. Okay. In our main camera, we're going to have a script. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. We're going to have a canvas made. Okay, that will be, it'll be automatically made when we create an image. Okay, now the image, a couple things here. I would say pick an easy object that could be a default object in Unity, and then you can colorize it, so like a red dot side or yellow or even white. I picked red. Okay, that's going to be your laser designator. We have raycast target and maskable on. So that's essentially creating our red dot site. Now the thing is, though, it's not going to do anything until you go to your canvas and set render mode to screen space. Excuse me real quick. Screen space overlay. Okay, just want to make sure I didn't turn anything off. Okay. And that's pretty much it for this one. The one thing that you want to know, though, is if you go to your image, because when you create this knob or the dot or whatever, it's probably going to be in one of the corners, or even at the bottom, or even somewhere underneath here. Go to here, click on that, hold down the Alt key on your keyboard, and then click this section, center mass here. That'll make it dead center to where the raycasting is occurring at. So this is kind of like a visualization of your red dot site. Okay, that's pretty much it for setting up your red dot site. It's not going to do anything until the one thing is that you tell it to make contact with your yellow ball, and only our yellow ball. Okay, so we'll go through a couple things. This is the introduction part of tags, or teams, or grouping. That kind of concept. It's basically saying if the object has the tag or the category of pickup, which you can at any time add a tag from that pull down menu, hit the plus sign, name it, save it, done. Okay, so if this ball has the tag on there and the red dot site makes collision with it also, you can left click on it and it'll pick up the object. Okay, so the sphere will be created. Make sure it's got the tag, pickup, or whatever you want for your script. Make sure it has sphere collider is trigger on. Don't need an audio source, it's just in there, or the animator, or the animate on collision script. It's just in there from previous tutorials. And that's pretty much it for the sphere. It's a pretty easy object, and that's why I made it that way. You want to keep your mesh renderer on for the white cube, and the yellow ball or the sphere will just exist in the world space. Okay, so pretty much the next thing we're going to talk about is our script, because after all this, your script is going to be underneath the main camera, and your main camera is going to have two variable slots. One will be hold object, which it's going to be filled in with an object called null object, and null object is just an empty game object. If the slot is programmed in but it's not filled, you'll get a null exception error, and that just basically says Unity is going to freeze until you put in an object in there. It's basically saying, where's my object? I can't do anything without my object, so it's going to stop you. When the script, I'll talk about the script in visualization in a second, or when it's on the screen. Okay. When the red dot sight makes contact with the ball will be filled in the slot here. That's the object to be hold. Okay. And the guide hold is your hand, or the white cube. Okay. It's going to say bring your hold object to your hand, or the white cube, when those particular conditions are met, and only if met. Okay. So that means you won't end up pulling the floor and transporting it in your hand, and then your hand holds the floor, and then you're falling into the abyss of Unity, and yeah, not good. So so let's go ahead and go to our script. Give me just 1 second. Okay, this is your script, and you make sure you create your script. You can name it to whatever you want. Just make sure it's in your main camera. Okay. There are two variable slots that are made public so that you can actually edit them, fill them in, physically do stuff with them. Okay. So hold object, the object to be picked up. Your guide hold variable, which is your hand, or the white cube. Okay. Nothing is going to be in the start area here. Now we have another one, which is private void update. Okay, and we're basically telling Unity the variable ray is actually going to be our screen point to ray, or a raycast, but its position. It's giving it an identity, declaring an identity or variable to the ray. Okay, and then next raycast hit. Okay, that's another variable for our raycast. Okay. Or our red dot sight. Okay. So it's just telling Unity, it's kind of organizing in a way like this is a ray, this is a laser hit, or raycast hit, So apples and oranges, I guess. So in this method for private void update, we say if programming statement meets the two conditions A and B. This is your AND statement, so you can include two conditions. So this is your physics raycast, so basically saying when the laser bounces or meets contact with an object, that's this statement, okay, because we've declared the raycast hit to a variable, essentially. And that object has the tag PickUp, which we talked about that earlier. Okay. If that case, print out the object, and this will tell us in the console, which we'll go into console messages or debugging messages in a second. It'll print that to the console, and then it'll go to the next thing, and then it'll say, well, did you meet this condition? You're probably wondering what that condition is, and this is basically your left mouse button click, or hold down. In this general purpose, it's going to register on our mouse that you made contact with your left mouse button. And if you got a little bit more advanced than this, you can have, instead of get mouse button down, you can have get mouse button up. You can just say, oh, I'll just drop the object when it goes up into another, per se, if statement or else statement, whatever you want to do, or whatever's appropriate. But when you click on the button for the mouse left button, print this message after it meets these two conditions. So you've aimed it, it's the object that can be picked up. You clicked on the left button to pick it up. It prints out this message to the console saying The object picked up, yay, and then this is all going to happen in a split second here, but we have hold object, which was up above, and it's just going to fill in that yellow sphere to the slot. It's not going to do anything yet, okay? Just saying, whatever object made collision with the red dot site, fill in the slot with that object, okay? After that, we will basically tell Unity to say, hey, when you clicked on that left mouse button, fill in the slot, and then tell that object that has its, like, copy its position, bring it to the position of your guide hold or your white cube or your hand. So that'll bring it to where you want to. The problem is, if you move the character at this point without anything following, what'll happen is, once you move, it'll get left behind. So that's what 36 does here. And it says, well, the parent of the hold object is actually going to be the guide hold, which we set that as a variable up above, okay? So just think of game object hold, game object object, transform location, okay? That's kind of the categories, alright? Now this isn't even needed. This is just kind of the check, like, you're making contact with an object, but this kind of way of testing out your Raycaster laser dot sight, whatever you call it. It just says if you make contact with an object, any object that is per se, doesn't have the pickup tag, it'll say, well, they'll print a console. This is an object that can't be picked up, and yes, it will fill in the slot, but that's all it's going to do. And you can actually get rid of that statement off 42 if you want. So that's pretty much how you do it. But you're probably wondering, well, is this really going to work? So we'll go into that proving ground here. Okay. Alright, so we have our object, okay? And there you go. So it brings it. Now if we move, it stays with us. Okay, that was the statement for, our parent object, parent statement, I should say. So if we try to pick up another object, it's not going to work because the others weren't set up to the tag pickup. Okay, that's why you can't take the 4 with you. So I could sit here and click all day long. Nothing will happen unless the object was set to pick up. So just kind of reaches a dead end in the code. And that's why we have, this is an object that can't be picked up. So we have, let's see, it's printing out a message, none of these objects can be picked up. Now, this is kind of how you use testing or debugging messages for testing. So this will tell you, well, okay, that's an object I can't pick up, which is one I can. So you saw, you can pick this up in the console there. Okay, so you can pick it up. So just something you can test. That's how you would do debug messages. Very important. Can sometimes actually identify a potential problem, particularly with if statements. Or just testing for games in general. So that's pretty much what you need, and so go back again real quick. You're gonna need your camera, first person controller, and you're gonna need a white cube, parent that underneath first person character and align it to a particular position that's visualized. Now the thing is, you can also turn off the mesh render if you don't need it, okay, and that'll be underneath the cube. So if you just want that as a position, that's just one way to do it. You can also use the empty game object if you want, but having the fact of a 3D object in there can actually be very valuable because you can see where your positioning is. And then, so from there, we have an image, a UI image created, which we went into that too, and it's going to have a canvas that is set screen space overlay, okay? And the image has a source image, which was the knob, the default image, and we colorized it to red and made it a little bit transparent. Alright, so just make sure that's screen space overlays, so you know it'll be in your game camera area. Now for your image, make sure it's set to raycast target and I think maskable. So from there, you also have an object that's created. It can be any object as long as it's set to PickUp. Okay. The tag. We went into that too. Make sure it has a collider. I had it set for trigger, but I think it still works. Either which way, either set the trigger or not. You can test that out. But for this, I had it set for trigger. You don't need an audio source, which I had it turned off. You don't need an animator, and you don't need the custom script. Nor were those objects in there, I think, to begin with. I just had them in for a previous object that was duplicated for this, which was the spear. So, and then you create your custom script, put the script underneath your main camera. We talked about that already. And from there also, make sure you have a null object. It can be set anywhere. I think this is actually an empty game object. It could be anywhere in your space. It's invisible basically, and then you fill in the slot for the hold object and have it assigned with the null object. So that way Unity doesn't crash or ask you, hey, where's my object? I need an object. That's pretty much how to do it. You can make this really advanced. You can add sound, you can add animations, you can do quite a bit. This is kind of a way to just, it's essentially parenting an object to another and having it follow you. Or you can also do this for vice versa. If you really tweak the script, you can actually have your player jump on a moving platform and stick to that platform until the ride is over and you can jump off. You can do all kinds of things. Now with tags, you can, if this was the object to be picked up, if it was a key, you can only unlock the key in which that it only unlocks the particular lock. You can do stuff like that, and I think I might do that in another tutorial, but that's how you kind of do this. It's a real simple approach. You can make it real advanced, but pretty simple concepts that you can do on your own. Alright, thank you so much, and like, comment, and subscribe.